Well, thanks for your company. Let's start as government is this afternoon being urged to abandon its intention to wean off public universities from its payroll, as it will spell doom for affordability of education. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta yesterday announced the decision to provide such institutions with fixed amounts of block grants in a bid to cut down on public expenditure. This is one of the many measures the minister spelled out as the blueprint for the pathway to economic recovery. Here's a news desk report.
The cuts were anticipated. Now we know appointees must contribute 30% of their salaries to the consolidated fund, 50% cut in fuel coupon allocations, moratorium on the purchase of imported vehicles and foreign travels, reduction of expenditure on all meetings and conferences by 50%. There's also a 10% cut in discretionary spending. In all, the finance minister expects to save 3.5 billion cedis. Some of these measures were introduced in 2017 by President Akufo-Addo without much success. But Deputy Finance Minister Abena Osasari says this time there will be proper monitoring.
We have car manufacturing companies locally that we believe we can also support by buying locally.
There was also a 15 peso reduction in the price of petrol and diesel. Transport operators say the reduction is woefully inadequate and will be discussing a further increase in fares. Imoro Abbas speaks for the GPRTU.
So they will be ungrateful to us. I mean, the 15 peso is woefully inadequate. We'll have to meet and decide on which way we are going to move.
Government will also borrow $2 billion from mainly international banks and bilateral partners for the economy. The NDC minority in Parliament say the measures will not make the expected impact. Dr. Kaisel Atofosing is ranking member on the Finance Committee.
The minister's speech today was simply empty. In fact, what it's going to do is that it's going to erode all the confidence the central bank brought into the economy after the announcement.
Well, we can now hear from the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as he talked about the public universities.
Supply of fuel and manage the rate of export price increase by ensuring that the Bank of Ghana has access to adequate foreign exchange to support this. Revenue measures. Ladies and gentlemen, be enough. Our focus is therefore twofold: to control expenditure and to raise more revenue domestically. As such, we will therefore begin
Well, we sincerely apologize for playing you the wrong inset, but education think tank Africa Education Watch is warning of dire consequences for affordability of university education. Executive Director Kofi Asari explains why.
It will affect the attainment of these targets and also constrict or restrict access to tertiary education. Why? Because the universities will now have the opportunity to charge realistic fees. And when they charge realistic fees, they will end up increasing the number of students, the percentage of students who are called fee paying. When you have that happen, the meaning is that more and more students who do not have the resources will not be able to enter tertiary education because it becomes, if you like, commodified. And so that is what this particular initiative means for the economy. It's good economically, but for education and for equitable access, it is bad.
Now, economist Professor Peter Korte agrees with Kofi Asari. He tells government, or he's asking government to be cautious.
I think the universities will be very excited about this policy, provided government can really wean the investors off its payroll. Because as we speak, the kind of fees we charge are 3-4 years fees we were charging. Anytime you want to charge fees, it has to go to Parliament to approve, and it takes years. Assuming you are using fees you charged 3 years ago to run a university today, how feasible is that? If you look at the exchange rate depreciation, look at the rate of inflation, it is just not feasible. So if we are allowed to charge fees at market rate, then we'll be able to raise enough to pay ourselves to, undertake all the facilities, infrastructure development we have earmarked. However, I can foresee a public outcry. I can foresee students kicking against this market economy-led approach, because if students enjoy free SHS, parents don't pay anything, then they come to the university and they are paying market rate. I believe not everybody can pay. So if we want to do this, then let's think through this carefully. Let's carry out a study to ascertain how it can be effectively done. If there's going to be some loan scheme or scholarship scheme to absorb those who cannot pay, let's have a discussion. Let's have a discourse on this. Get a report. Then when we roll it out, we'll not withdraw, but rather we'll implement this to the latter.
Well, we'll stay with the subject a while longer because Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, is also sharing the concerns by Professor Gov't.
I find it worrisome because I fail to understand why a country whose citizens are currently undergoing the level of hardships that we are facing are being told that government is going to de-subvent public universities. You must remember that university education is not free. The only reason why the fees that students pay to go to university is at least within range for the average student from your average background is largely because of government subvention. So if this proposal that government is making, which I totally disagree with, were to become a reality, what this would mean is that the universities would then have to find their own ways of generating enough resources to, for example, pay lecturers and other non-teaching staff at the universities. And if this is to happen, naturally, consequentially, the universities would then have to charge students the fees that would allow them to survive in the absence of government subvention. So the implications are very far-reaching and potentially dire in determining who can afford university education in Ghana.
Well, the General Secretary of the Ghana Union of Ghana Students says that the student body is opposed to this latest move.
If
it will affect the attainment of these targets and also constrict or restrict access to tertiary education. Why? Because the universities will now have the opportunity to charge realistic fees. And when they charge realistic fees, they will end up increasing the number of students, the percentage of students who are called fee-paying.
Apologies for the technical hitches that we're experiencing this afternoon, but we'll bring you that of NUCs a bit later. Let's now hear from ordinary students who are already dreading the impact.
If it's being transferred to we the students to make the full payment, it's going to cause a lot of harm, you understand, because we believe even in the SHS, they are being given free education and the rest. So what about we? In the advanced worlds, this is the part of the education where students are even being paid to offer the researches they are doing. But here we are doing it on our own strength.
I would like to see that government should consider their decision and then make it in such a way that it will benefit all of us, because some of us are coming from poor homes, and once they increase the amount, it's not all of us that will pay, so they should consider that. That's what I'll say.
It is done. A lot of people will have to drop out of school since they can't afford. Yes, and it will affect us negatively.